What's up, everybody? Scott Lennox here. My lovely wife, Kristen Lennox, here on the back deck. We are right in the middle of it, man. We just finished up with the White Marlin Open. Poor Girls Open was this past weekend, and today starts the Mid-Atlantic. We've had a really great tournament season. August is kind of a blur. It's a really great month for us because it's tournament season. I'm doing some MCing gigs at these places, and it's a lot of fun. Some of you folks are even stopping me at the tournaments and saying how nice our backyard looks. So appreciate that very much.
Tell me that.
I dropped that surprise on you this morning.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, so today what we want to do is give you our top 3 kind of things.
Yeah.
And what was your idea for today?
Well, today I wanted to talk about the top 3 fish that we've ever caught. Was curious to find out your top 3, and
Yep.
I'm sure, maybe you could probably pick out my top 3, but
I probably could, but I'll let you say it anyway. But all right, so top 3 fish. This is like overall,
Yeah.
regardless of where or anything?
yep, overall,
Okay.
anywhere, doesn't have to be Ocean City. Okay, well, my number 3 favorite fish that I've ever caught was a pink salmon in Alaska. Remember that?
I do,
That
yeah.
hasn't been too long ago, maybe 2019. And it was just cool because we were in Alaska on a cruise and we managed to sneak out on a little fishing trip. And I was I think, only one that was able to catch a salmon that day. I know we caught some other things, but not
Yeah.
pink salmon, the one where you could keep it.
Right.
And the neatest thing about it was when we went back to the cruise ship, we took the fish back with us, and the chefs on board turned it into this big platter and this big production. It was the neatest thing. I just loved that.
That really was
whole
a fun experience. Yeah, and so I'll explain a little bit differently. There's a couple different types of salmon that you can catch in Alaska. Some of them were out of season, so the pink salmon was the one we were allowed to harvest, and she's right, we took that back to the boat, and it was it was really, really cool experience. All right, so I'm up.
What's your number 3?
My number 3. My number 3 is probably also from a trip out of the country, and that was bonefish that I caught in the Bahamas.
Bucket list.
Yeah, just because it was a bucket list fish for me. I'd never caught a bonefish before. We were at Sandals, I think, in the Bahamas, and Kristen decided to stay back at the resort.
That's because we went the year before in this teeny tiny little boat, and we didn't catch anything.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I was like, I'm gonna relax.
And I'm like, I still want to go do this because bone fishing is really cool. It's tough. Bonefish can see very, very well. You got to kind of sneak up on them and stuff. But I was able to go with this gentleman in the Bahamas, and it was really cool. I think I ended up catching 4 total, but the first one was obviously the top 3 was my third favorite fish, just because that was on my bucket list. It was cool. The fish was only 18 or 20 inches long, and they fight like mad. So really fun. Number 3 for me is bonefish in the Bahamas.
Oh, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, my number 2 fish, it's actually a tie. I was going to add it as a bonus, but I'm just going to say it's a tie because they're both flounder. Probably my best one would be my best flounder that I've ever caught, and it was years ago when our son was a baby, so maybe like 15 years ago.
A while ago,
yeah, close to 16. It was a flounder that I caught in Ocean City, right off of Harbor Island, and we can't remember the measurements on it, but it was between 6 and 7 pounds.
26 inches, I think.
It was a really, really nice flounder, and if you've never caught a big flounder, like over probably 6 or 7 pounds, at least for me, when I set the hook, I was like, that feels like a concrete block.
She thought she was snagged.
Yeah, it was so heavy, and it didn't fight until I got it up to the surface, and then it took back off, and I'm like, oh my God, that's the biggest fish I've ever caught. Yeah. That was really neat.
So I'll expound on that a little bit too. Something that you guys, the flounder fish, if you've ever had that experience before, what happens is that fish just eats your bait, and you don't know it because you've got either a slack leader or something like that, or you're sitting in a really slow current. The fish just eats it with one bite and just lays on top of it, and just sits there. And then when you finally go to reel up, whether you're just reeling to check it or whatever, the fish is on there, and he's like, what the hell's going on? And he's just kind of slowly being reeled to the surface, not realizing what's going on until she gets to the point where, oh man, something's happening to me, and then they start to fight, and that's what happened to Kristen. You guys will have it happen to you if there's some of those larger fish too. Fish number.
Sorry, I forgot my bonus real quick, and I wanted to talk about it. But my bonus tie for 2 was the very first time I caught my 4-fish flounder limit, and that was also around 2020. And the reason I'm so proud of that is because it was the first time I fished a long tournament with Scott where I fished really hard all day. It was like an 8-hour Ocean Pines flounder tournament.
Yep.
And we didn't even stop to use the bathroom. We didn't stop to eat. I mean, we were in the East Channel, and I fished really hard. So that 4 limit, I'm very proud of because of, I worked as hard as Scott.
Yeah, I was proud of you too, and mainly because when you go tournament fishing with me, there is no going to the bathroom. fish every minute of every.
You think he's joking, but he's not.
Optimize the fishing time. That's how that works.
Yep.
Same with Kristen. We've had some real luck in that Ocean Pines Flounder tournament. It's always first week in August. It's usually right before the White Marlin Open, like it was this past year. And she caught her limit a couple of years ago. I caught my limit this year.
Yeah.
Finished in 3rd place in the tournament. So that was really, really fun. You guys, that video is on the YouTube already, so check that out. We can link that below.
That was a fun day.
That was a really fun day. I ended up catching, actually, she didn't fish that day. She was just doing some filming and some moral support. And I caught a limit plus 1 and ended up throwing one back and then finished in 3rd place. Fish number 2 for me, probably big eye tuna on the spring mix. Was last year? Year before?
I think it was last summer.
Yeah, this was a really great fish, and there's a cool story behind it too. We were fishing on board the spring mix too. I was with Bobby from Harborside. Lloyd from Harborside was there with us. Bobby's girlfriend was there with us too, and we got jumped by 3 big eyes all at the same time, and we knew we were in for a pretty tough fight. Here's what happens: the sharks were there. Shark eats one fish, completely gone. Shark eats another fish, completely gone. We're like, oh no, we're gonna lose all 3 of these big eyes. And they fought like they were pretty substantial fish. So we get to where I'm on the rod, get the fish close to the boat. I start feeling something really weird. Shark is showing up. Thankfully, got this thing to the boat with only 1 bite out of the tail, which was really good. So the fish would have been over 200 pounds, ended up being 193 when we got it on the scale at the fishing center, but really cool experience, and I think the biggest tuna I've ever caught. So that was a lot of fun. 193 big eye on the spring mix too. With a shark bite out of the back of it.
That's awesome.
Yep. Number 1.
Number 1. Okay, this is my favorite fish ever. And if you ever talk to me and we talk about big fish, this is one that's always going to come up. We went to Costa Rica. It was 2019. I think I had a big year that year. And I got hooked up on a giant bull dolphin, probably around 50 pounds. That's what they asked over.
And I'm only saying this now because of what we saw this weekend. So I'll let her finish the story, but when the fish hit the deck, I was shocked about how big it was. And Dave Messick, we were filming Hooked on OC during that trip. Dave Messick said, that's 60 pounds. And when he said it, I was kind of in agreement with him. Just this past weekend, we saw a 53.3 pound mahi during the Poor Girls Open. Her fish was bigger than that. And it was just a jumbo. It was probably 55 to 60 pounds. Easy, conservative guess. We have it on the wall in the house. It's awesome. It was a really great fish, and I understand why it's your number 1.
Yeah, and the neatest thing about it is, you know, I'm an inshore fisherman. I don't go offshore too much because I get sick. So, side note, if you get sick too, go to Costa Rica because they fish really close to land and the water is flat calm.
Right.
Hardest thing about that particular fish was that, you know, it was really heavy and it was fighting really hard, and I got it up to the boat 3 times. And the mate missed it with the gaff each time. It just kept taking off back down.
Yeah.
And by the time I got to the 4th time, my arm, it was just spent. And I didn't want to pass the rod off. I had no intentions of it, but I'm like, gosh, if they don't gaff it this 4th time, I don't think I think I'm done.
You did it the entire time by yourself.
Yeah.
So
it was
nice.
Very proud of that fish because of how hard it was and how big it was.
Number 1 for me, man. You knew it was going to be a Paralichthys dentatus.
Okay,
Paralichthys dentatus. My biggest fish in Ocean City, and only because, as of yet, and I'm going to stop talking about this so I stop jinxing myself, I have not caught a double-digit fish up in Nantucket Shoals like all the rest of the guys have. I have caught a fish that was almost the exact same size as the fish I'm going to mention now. 8-pound flounder in Ocean City. Caught that fish off of Martha's Landing. Cool story behind it is that we were fishing in what was going to be the Wahoo Rodeo.
Oh, yes.
I think so. Yep. Wahoo Rodeo and Flounder Roundup. It's a tournament that Sunset Marina tried to put on for a couple of years, and they got plagued with weather every year. We went fishing anyway, and it was blowing, 25 probably. We were fishing on her father's pontoon boat that we call Pop Pop's Pontoony. That was before we had the Carolina skiff and everything. Brian Behe, my good friend, was fishing with us. And we just snuck into Martha's Landing there because it was one of the only spots that we could fish without that wind cranking right in our face. It was literally blowing 25. And I dropped a live mullet down right there on the edge of the rocks, and I felt the same thing she felt, just kind of dead weight. And then as I set the hook a lot. That's how I realized whether there's a fish on there or not. I set the hook and he immediately did a little bump, and then the fish came up from the boat unlike a flounder does, came up from the boat like 20-25 feet away from the boat. I'm like, oh my God, look at the size of this flounder.
I'll never
And then
forget that.
Brian still says it to me how I was saying things. I don't remember it quite this way, but she does too. I was like, oh Richard, please don't miss this fish with the net. And he did not. He
The
scooped.
fish was so big, it was almost the size of our net.
28, I think, and a half inches or something like that, and 8 pounds even. So that's my number one fish, is the 8-pound flounder from Martha's Landing right here in Ocean City. There you go, top threes of our favorite fish.
What's your favorite catch?
Yeah,
What's
drop
the
them in the
best fish
comments.
you've ever caught?
We're answering every question we get right now, and responding to all the comments and all that good stuff. So drop those down below. If you haven't done it already, man, like our social media. We got iFishingOC on Instagram, growing. Fishing OC's on Facebook. We do our nightly fishing report at fishingOC.com, and then all of our tackles available at deadly-tackle.com. Nice job.
Thank you. And if you like what you're seeing that we're putting out on YouTube, make sure to subscribe and like. It really helps us out so that we can provide more content for you guys in the future.
Yeah. See you later, YouTube. Thanks for clicking in.